PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Kelly. And on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, where we break down every single game of the 2024-2025 season for your Vegas Golden Knights, we're going to be talking about the most recent matchup what happened at T-Mobile Arena, the final game of a 3-game homestand for your Vegas Golden Knights, as Vegas took on Anaheim. And this game had some really good highs, but man, also had some lows. We're going to cover all of that here on the show. Also, if you have about half a minute, if you want to follow us on social media at Vegas Hockey Hub, that would be great. Now, in terms of roster moves, there was an optional morning skate. There was no change in the starting lineup. All 4 lines remained the exact same from the game before. We'll cover all of that in just a second. And then the only notable difference is the goaltender, Adin Hill. He started the first 2 games, won both games for your Vegas Golden Knights. Ilya Samsonov would be the goaltender, making his Vegas Golden Knights debut. So, yeah, Ilya Samsonov was interesting to see how he would play in this game, making his debut for Vegas. But outside of that, there really is no roster moves, no pregame notes, or anything that you could really sit there and look at and say, you know what, I think this is what it's going to look like in that type of situation. So, with the lineups looking the same, defensive pairings looking the same, goaltending being the only difference, let's remind you what those lines are. For everybody who does not know, for anyone who hasn't seen the first 2 games and have just seen game 3, on line 1, you have Ivan Barbashev, Jack Eichel, and Mark Stone, arguably the best line and probably the best in the NHL statistically over the first 3 games. On line 2, you have Pavel Dorofeyev, Tomas Hertl, and Alexander Holtz. And this line is very important in this game, and we'll cover that in just a second. On forward line 3, Victor Olofsson, Nicholas Waugh, and Brett Howden. And this line has actually been a really productive line this season, one of the notable positives the Vegas Golden Knights have had this year. And then on the 4th line, you have Tanner Pearson, Cole Schwinn, and Keegan Kolazar. Now, Cole Schwinn had his first point in the game previously. They acquired him on waivers from Calgary earlier this week on Monday. So, for the 4 lines on the forwards, your first line has been the best. Your third line has been productive. And then the second and 4th line, there's been some good and bads there. But I will point out the second line did a lot of good in this game against Anaheim. And then for the defensive pairings, this is similar to what we have seen for the first 3 games. Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo on pairing 1, Noah Hannafin and Nick Hague on pairing 2, and Zach Whitecloud and Brayden McNabb on pairing 3. So we have yet to see a sighting of Ben Hutton or Caden Korzak. Will not be surprised if we see them at some point this season with your Vegas Golden Knights. And then, like I mentioned, in net is Ilya Samsonov making his debut for the Vegas Golden Knights. And when it comes to Vegas, the first negative, I guess really the only negative I could point out, was the Troy Terry goal for Anaheim. This was a situation where Ivan Barbashev, he was causing turnovers. Shea Theodore, he was turning over the puck in the neutral zone. And Vegas just created an odd man situation. Troy Terry, he goes down the ice. He takes advantage of the momentum. And on an unassisted goal, gets his first of the season and the only one in the game for Anaheim. So for Troy Terry, someone who the Anaheim Ducks are hoping could be a core member of this team, of all the young guys they have on the roster, are kind of counting on Troy Terry to be a constant there. So for him to score for Anaheim really just showed the amount of turnovers that the Vegas Golden Knights had in this game. And I really hate to say that Vegas is not going to have this problem moving forward. But when you have a Vegas Golden Knights team that had a whopping 19 giveaways, Okay, I want to repeat that again. 19 giveaways for your Vegas Golden Knights. You kind of have to wonder, is this going to be a problem long term? Because we had a similar problem in the game against St. Louis where they were turning over the puck in the neutral zone, and one of those just so happened to turn into a Robert Thomas goal going down the other way. So these turnovers are really one of the main negatives the Vegas Golden Knights have had. Very sloppy puck possession for Vegas, and that created the Troy Terry goal. And overall, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, Brett Howden with his second goal of the season to start out the game for Vegas, assisted by Alex Pietrangelo and Keegan Kolesar. And, Brett Howden scoring his second goal of the season, he has actually been a very impressive player in the first few games here. I do have to admit, for a guy who started on the fourth line of opening night, he gets bumped up to the third line for game 2 and game 3. If he continues to perform like he does, maybe he might be a second line player by the end of the year. Very impressed by what Brett Howden has done in the first couple of games for Vegas. He's been calm. He's been collective. He's making the right read. He's passing it over to people that needs to be done. And more importantly, he's doing just as well on the offensive zone as he is on the defensive zone. He's feeling like a complete player for Vegas out there at Brett Howden. Alex Pietrangelo, who I have to mention, 3 points in 3 games for Alex Pietrangelo, averaging a point per game. And considering his cap hit, and more importantly, considering his veteran presence, over 1,000 games in the NHL, to have someone like Alex Pietrangelo, who is near 1,000 games, who is near, a point per game after having 1,000 games played in the NHL, it's just the consistency of production for a guy like Alex Pietrangelo that you have to admire with the Vegas Golden Knights. And then there wasn't many penalties in this game. In fact, the only penalty the Vegas Golden Knights had was when Brayden McNabb, got sent to the box for hooking against Troy Terry, and that was in the third period. The Vegas Golden Knights killed that off, so they went 1-for-1 on the penalty kill. However, when it comes to the power play unit, they did execute, and they did their job excellently. And I want to acknowledge this because he did a fantastic setup here. Your captain, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, they were passing the puck around on the power play, trying to get it to the open man, and that's what indeed they did. As you had for the first goal of the season, okay? The first goal of the season, you had Tomas Hertl, his first goal of the season. And I will say that when it comes to Tomas Hertl, there's been some question marks about that second line. It feels like Dorofeyev hasn't been progressing as much in the first 2 games. Tomas Hertl, there's been some turnover concerns. Alexander Holtz, he whiffed on a goal in game 2, and we'll talk about something that almost happened in game 3 with Alexander Holtz. But for Tomas Hertl to score his first goal of the season with the assist from Mark Stone, his 4th of the season, and then Jack Eichel, 6 assists on the year, 7 points in total for Jack Eichel. He's really playing like a superstar, and you really see the power play unit. They're doing a lot better. This is not their second, but actually their third power play goal of the season for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then let me get to the play that did not count. Okay? So this happened in the second period for the Vegas Golden Knights, as there was a goal that got waved off. Now, let me explain the scenario to you. There was a pass, and there was a shot that went off. It tipped. It was up in the air, and Alexander Holtz took his stick and batted it into the net. Now, everyone thought it was a goal. People at T-Mobile Arena were excited. We were loud. Oh, my gosh, we're going to win. We're up 2-1. But then referees, they met in the middle. They said, hold on now. Wait a minute. Hold on. And after reviewing the play, it was determined that Alexander Holtz's stick was indeed high sticking. So because it was above the net when it went tipped, it was no longer a goal. So it was waved off. So Alexander Holtz's first goal of the season, unfortunately, needs to be done at a later date, as that goal was waved off. And it's unfortunate Now, if I want to play devil's advocate here, you can make an argument that from a certain angle and a certain perspective, it was a goal. But when you freeze frame it and when you're doing it in slow motion, yes, you can't deny that his stick was at a certain angle where you would say that it was waved off because of where he put his stick at when it met the puck. So for Alexander Holtz, that was a waved off goal. Could have been a 4-1 game for Vegas Golden Knights, but that did not count. And then the last part that we do have to acknowledge here on Vegas Hockey Hub for the recap is Pavel Dorofeyev's first goal of the season after having an insane performance in the preseason, scoring a bunch of goals for Vegas. He gets his first of the year. This was assisted by Keegan Kolesar, so a 2-assist performance for Keegan Kolesar in this game. And, I do have to notice that when it comes to that second line, they performed a lot better in the second and third period of Game 3. Because the first two games, I complained about the second line. It seemed like there just wasn't a lack of chemistry. There really was no umph in that second line. And then with Game 3, the first period seemed like a lot. Tomas Hertl caused another turnover in the neutral zone. I was just ready just to can him right then and there. But when it comes to Tomas Hertl, he scores that power play goal. Pavel Dorofeyev, then he adds his first goal of the season. So when it comes to that second line for the Vegas Golden Knights, you only have 2 goals through 3 games. But they're going to work on it. And he is going to, you have Holtz. He's someone who has a lot of promise. Hasn't scored a goal yet, but he had 2 really good opportunities so far in the first 3 games. You had Tomas Hertl, who just scored his first, and then Pavel Dorofeyev, he scored his first. And then, as the Golden Knights, as the buzzer would sound, and as Viva Las Vegas would air and blare throughout all of T-Mobile Arena, the horns would be going off. The Vegas Golden Knights win this game 3-1 against Anaheim. Your Vegas Golden Knights advance to 3-0-0 on the season for 2024-2025. And I want to say congratulations. Congratulations to Ilya Samsonov for his first ever win as a Vegas Golden Knight. All right, his first game behind the net, and he did really well. He stopped 22 shots out of 23 attempts, and it seemed like there was some good saves he did. There was one opportunity by Cutter Gutierrez where he went for a backhand, and Samsonov was just right on it and stopped it right away. So I do have to acknowledge that and say that he did good there. And then you have to look at what the Vegas Golden Knights did defensively. They stayed back. They really helped out Samsonov in certain situations. So you have to give credit to the defense for helping out, for Samsonov for the 22 saves he made in net. And overall, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, to start out 3-0. Now, we've seen this script before. All right, Vegas did this exact thing last year. And the year before in 22-23, they had a hot start to the year. So this is not the first time as Vegas Golden Knights fans that we have seen this. This is not the first time as Vegas Hockey Hub has been doing these recap shows that we have seen them do what they're doing. Hence the title of this video, Must Keep Winning. All right. Look, in the NHL and the National Hockey League, it is impossible to win every single game. All right. I don't care if you put every single legend in the game on NHL 24 and you ran a simulation. They're not going to win every single game. But here's what we do know. Just because you can't win every game doesn't mean that you're not going to make the attempt to try to win every single game. And right now, the first 3 games, that first line has been excellent. All right, that first line has been arguably the best part of the Vegas Golden Knights in the first 3 games. That second line has done better in the last 2 periods of this game. The third line, Olofsson has 2 goals. Howden has 2 goals. I mean, that third line has done a relatively solid job. Nicholas Watt has scored a goal in Game 2. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, when you're looking at who is, shooting the puck, who is scoring, who's putting in the back of the net, the first line and the third line have been your 2 scoring units. The fourth line Cole Schwinn, he had that assist in game 2. Pearson, not much so far. Kolazar had 2 assists night in this game. But the defensive pairings have actually been arguably the best part. Besides the sloppy turnovers from Shea Theodore, Pietrangelo, he's averaging assists per game. Shea Theodore, he is averaging a point per game. Haig and Hannafin have been really good contributors on the defensive end, helping out Hill and Samsonov in these two times that they've been helping out. And then with Whitecloud and McNabb unfortunately taking unnecessary penalties, but Whitecloud scored a goal already this year, and he is showing some progress and not showing regression like he did in parts last year. Now, the player of the game for your Vegas Golden Knights. All right, in game 1, it was Ivan Barbashev. In game 2, it was Jack Eichel. But in game 3, we're going to go with a guy who, like I said, been very impressed with his performance this year, and that is Brett Howden. Brett Howden scored that first goal of the game, and his stat line for this game, for Brett Howden, once again, very impressive what he has done this year. I mean, 4 shots on net, he had 2 hits, he had a takeaway, but when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights organization, someone like Brett Howden, who had a 100% face-off succession rate, this is someone who has been very valuable, and in his 14 minutes of ice time, he connected and he was valuable in almost every shift against Anaheim. So Brett Howden, player of the game for game 3. And, Vegas Golden Knights 3-0 on the season. And the upcoming schedule, you have the Washington Capitals. You're going to be starting this very tough road stand after having a 3-game homestand to start out the year. This is a Vegas Golden Knights team that's going to be on the road, and it's going to be interesting to see how they perform there. Because it's no secret the Vegas Golden Knights have had a home advantage in the first 8 seasons of being around. All right, the Vegas Golden Knights fans, the Fortress, is arguably the best in all of hockey. Chicago, Montreal, Toronto, we can name a few that are comparable. Washington, Tampa Bay, and Florida. You're going to have a 3-game road stand to come off a 3-game homestand. Now, here on Vegas Hockey Hub, we're going to do a recap show for every single one of those road games. On Tuesday, when the Washington Capitals take on the Vegas Golden Knights, I will be at Red Rock Casino, going to the watch party and watching them there. So, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, we're going to record footage. We're going to record stuff from social media content. And then, of course, Vegas Hockey Hub recap that we do at 8 a.m. the day after every single Vegas Golden Knights game. And it's going to be interesting to see how they do against the Eastern Conference. Washington, you have the Logan Thompson effect. Obviously, LT facing his former team for the first time. You have Tampa Bay and Florida, so you're going up against the 2 Florida teams. You have the Florida Panthers, who they faced off in the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years prior. And then Tampa Bay, who has been statistically one of the best performing teams in hockey over the last 5 or 6 years. So, for your Vegas Golden Knights, here's the expectations. Do I expect them to win all 6 points? That would be lovely, but I don't see it happening. So realistically, if you can win 4 out of 6, all right, if you can win 2 out of 3 and get 4 points, or if you can have 1 win, 2 losses, but you have 2 overtime losses, that still gets you to 4 points. Because when it comes to this road trip, the amount of points that you collect is going to be so valuable for Vegas. So getting 2 out of 3 is what matters. So if you beat Washington and Florida but lose to Tampa Bay, that's 4 points. You're going to be up to 10 by the end of that road stand. If you beat Tampa Bay and Florida but find a way to lose to Washington, hey, if it's in overtime, that's 5 points. That gets you to 11. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, this road trip is going to be so valuable. But I want to know from you. So you beat Colorado on opening night. You beat St. Louis. You beat Anaheim. Now you're going to go on the road, and you're going to take on Washington, Tampa Bay, and Florida. What is your expectation for the Vegas Golden Knights on the road trip? When they go up against 3 arguably good teams in the Eastern Conference, what is your expectation? Mine is that they win 2 out of 3 and they come home with 4 points. Now, this is Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. And until next time, go Knights, go.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.